recreate what fucking Schumacher, what Tim Burton's third film would have been. To be honest with you, man, I don't really see it, eh? You still with me?
What were you saying? Sorry.
Oh shit, there you are. I thought you were gone. Yeah, when we were in that bookshop the other day, I saw that fucking what was it? That Batman '89 comic book there.
Oh yeah, in the bookstore.
Yeah, you know the one that's like just a comic book version of what Tim Burton's Batman 3 would have been.
Yeah.
Gotta be honest with you, man, I don't really see it. I'm kind of glad that they changed gears when they did. Because I like, even though I do like Batman Returns, it was a bit of a misstep.
Yeah, I in that book on fourth movie films, they touch a little bit on what Joel Schumacher's Batman 3 would have been. I always thought that Nicolas Cage, John Travolta was sort of rumoured to be the Scarecrow, and they had kind of teased it at the end of Batman Forever by actually showing Arkham and the Riddler there, because I think that one of the main storylines is Batman like finds himself trapped in Arkham, so they have all the villains there let loose or something like that. It was kind of he got the plot of Arkham Asylum, 20 years before it actually.
Well, it's funny because Scarecrow being the main villain and Jack Nicholson's return as the Joker in due to the fear toxins and all of that, evidently ended up becoming the main driving point of Arkham Knight in 2015 in the video game. So which is it? Does Schumacher have nothing but shit ideas, or is he all of a sudden in the cool club? And also, I think the sonar suit from the finale is just as awesome as it. I put that up there with the Batman Begins suit. I think those two are the best on-screen looks the costume has ever had. I thought the Dark Knight armor was quite ambitious, but a bit too much, I think.
Yeah, it looks a little bit too cluttered, doesn't it? It
like,
seems to...
The bat on the chest doesn't really
it
stand out. Like, it looks more like a cyber ninja than a Batman.
Yeah, I kind of... In a way, I thought it was clever how they made it a plot point for the film. Like, Batman wants to be more flexible and maneuverable.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they took this design challenge and sort of put it into the story of the film. But on the other hand, I never really gave a shit that Batman couldn't turn his head in the earlier films. I didn't even notice it until someone pointed it out.
I never either.
So I kind of rank it on the same level as the putting a flaw in the Death Star. It was never a plot hole. I don't understand why people think it's so annoying revisiting the original Star Wars film and their main takeaway is, why would the Empire leave something so obvious and blatant in there?
They don't know that it's so obvious and blatant, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, and they're so arrogant and powerful, and they think, and they, it's like, as far as they know, there's no more Force users out there. It needed Luke, who's someone who can tap into the Force, to make that shot. So it really didn't, like, it never bothered me that some of the earlier suits weren't that maneuverable. Because, I mean, there's plenty of action in Joel Schumacher's films, and it never bothered me that there's a giant porthole in the Death Star. So it's weird that it just seemed really weird to me that they would spend a whole movie trying to explain and put context into that.
Yeah. But I'm actually glad it took it on the chin, but as soon as they did that, though, they did something that really pissed me off, and that was they were still trying to avoid the eye makeup at all costs. Now, apparently in the Batman, which I still haven't seen, they do just finally flat out show that. I mean, like, Kick-Ass did that and no one complained. Because I always thought it would have been cool after the Bane fight in The Dark Knight Rises, when he walks away with the broken cowl and Bruce is all washed up from the sewers and all that kind of stuff. Had we have seen his face all bashed up and the makeup smeared, he would have looked like the Joker. Had we have seen that. But nah, we got to have it out of focus because the eye make. I just don't know why they avoided that for as long as they did. Like, they should have just shown that. Well, that's just what he does, because why not? No, but who the fuck would know? I'm not at all familiar with this Doom episode, so if I start running around and not fucking knowing where I'm going, don't freak out about that. I'm basically going into this episode blind on my Switch. No, we've been here. There's nothing here. This is where we started. Alright, so we've got to find that red key.
What version are you playing?
Because apparently they added a new episode, and I did some research. The reason why this was free on the eShop is because we both had the original. It was a free upgrade for anyone who had the original 2 games.
Yeah, okay.
And anyone who doesn't have them has to buy it legit. And I bought it on Steam as well. I'm playing, what's it called, that Legacy of Rust. They've added a new episode to Doom. I'm not too sure if it's Doom or Doom 2. I've got no fucking idea where I'm going. I hit that switch, but I can't remember what it did. And I will sink my teeth into Sigil 2 eventually. I have done Sigil 1. I thought it was pretty cool. Oh, there's the red key there. Yeah, so, what was your thoughts on the eye makeup?
Yeah, I really liked seeing it in Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is a pretty good... I think I dropped out for a second there.
Yeah, you did. So I was like, "Alright, he'll come back soon. I hope he can hear what I'm saying," because I was on a bit of a roll there with why Nolan avoided it for as long as he did.
Yeah, I liked when Nicolas Cage did it in Kick-Ass. I'm a big fan of that first Kick-Ass movie, and yeah, when he's gearing up and like he's taking the time to put the eye makeup on, that was funny. It's a good superhero movie in and of itself, but it also poked a lot of fun at some of those genre tropes that we've seen. And it's kind of weird as well how those original Batman movies are so defined when there's a lot of common elements. So you have Burton's 2 films and Schumacher's 2 films, but they use the same Alfred actor. Is it Michael Gough?
And Pat Hingle is Commissioner Gordon in all 4 films as well.
Yeah, so they're clearly in the same universe. Chase Meridian references Catwoman. Bruce Wayne, yeah, he talks about Vicky Vale with some of his newer relationships as well. So
because that's the go-to when you're talking up to your new girlfriend. To get her in the mood, all you do is talk about your ex. It's a good strategy, isn't it, to court a woman?
Yeah, it's 100% complete movie bullshit, isn't it?
I mean, it's like relationship suicide is what it is in real life.
Yeah, the only thing Bruce didn't say was that he's sorry that it's over, but he hopes they can still be friends.
Yeah, well, even Vicky had to air out that as well. I slept with you. I can't believe I did that. Vicky's moment of self-reflection in Batman 89 is the best part about that whole movie. Like, when she starts quizzing herself up, like, why am I hanging around this flog?
And she wakes up and he's hanging upside down.
See, but that's something that I quite like about a lot of Bruce's love interests in some of the stories that he finds himself in. One of my favourite ones is when he's dating Lois Lane in the World's Finest Animated Movie. When she's all for him, but the second she finds out that he's Batman, you can see just how uncomfortable that makes her when she calls it off at the end of the film. There's things about you, Bruce, that I just don't even want to know. She's clearly just uncomfortable being around him anymore when she finds out that he's Batman. I really like that, and there's been a few other times where that's happened. They just know what comes with that kind of territory, and they want nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't just take it to any old body shop. Security, Alfred. Who was it who led Vicky Vale into the Batcave? I'm down there working, I turn around, there she is. Oh, hi Vic, come on in.
That's something I liked about Nolan's films. You know, they kind of explored how you go about hiding the fact that he's Batman. Like when they're ordering the parts and Alfred says it's too obvious, we'll have to buy, 10,000 of them and just spread them throughout all their subsidiary companies. Like, that was really clever stuff. Nolan got a lot of stuff right as well. These films are really good.
Yeah, I think, I know Dark Knight gets all the clicks and all of that, but funny enough, it's the one that I've revisited the least out of the three. For me, it's probably the one I've seen most times from start to finish is actually Rises. And then Begins, and then Night. Like, I'm not completely against, people taking Batman and just running it so straight and things like that. I'm not against that, but you gotta understand something, and that is, we've had nothing but that since Batman Begins, and that was 20 fucking years ago. I kind of want something a bit zany, like Schumacher again. I think the time is right for it. I mean, just something, but they'll never do that because blah blah blah, Batman and Robin, blah blah blah. Yeah, God. But don't worry, now we're going to start hearing how Schumacher got it right. Like, that's all you ever saw when the guy actually passed away. Oh yeah, things that he got right. It wasn't a bad number. And then there was a push for some director's cut of Batman Forever. Make up your mind, people. To be honest with you, I don't really care if we see it or not, because I think Forever is fine the way that it is.
Yeah, and it got decent reviews when it came out.
So why would they? Like, why would they do an extended cut of that or whatever? It was a success. Like, why bother doing that?
Yeah, I remember at the time it came out, reviews were pretty good. They weren't, overwhelmingly spectacular, but there was the general feeling that the second film was too dark, and this sort of pulled it back in the right direction and found a better balance than it was. I think it was the second highest grossing film of the year or something at the time. So,
well, what else came out in '95?
Talk about those.
Yeah.
I think Mel Gibson's Braveheart was out that year, and some other things like that. But yeah, it's been a lucrative film for Warner Brothers. I don't when people say they want a director's cut, it's basically just sort of internet wisdom,
What do you mean by that?
Well, it has no basis in reality. Why would you touch a film that was commercially successful and has proven to be a big, sort of like it was big on home video, it was big on DVD and Blu-ray. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me that a company would tamper with it. But of course, Batman fans and internet fans, remember Batman and Robin, and so by default, anything Schumacher had to do with Batman is automatically shit, and there's some epic director's cut there that he wasn't allowed to release. It's
those release the Ayer cut dick shits. Who was it? I remember one of the best comments I ever saw about that was, yeah, the guy who gave us fucking Suicide Squad, let's give him another crack at that same film. It's baffling to me. Yeah, nah, not me, man. I think Forever's fine the way that it is. But these are the same people that are asking for, like, deleted scenes to be restored in fucking... oh, fuck this episode. I'm gonna bump it down a little bit. I'm not even having fun here. It's fucking... these are the same people that want, like, Jurassic Park deleted scenes to be added back in and shit like that. And why? Like, you do nothing but jerk off over how perfect that film is. Why do you want to start fixing it?
Yeah, and not to mention a lot of deleted scenes in pretty much any film. There's a good reason they were left out. Like I haven't sort of thought of a scene, and I used to be a sort of avid watcher of special features on discs. Never really looked at a scene and thought, wow, they're crazy for cutting that. That absolutely had to be in there. There's some really good stuff that, gets cut to keep it to a manageable length. Like that's true with the Lord of the Rings films, but, I think as time went by, Peter Jackson and his team deliberately shot things that they knew were not going to be in the theatrical cut. So, because they knew they had these extended versions. And it's interesting their terminology. I think Jim Cameron does the same. Like he says they're extended versions, they're not director's cuts. Like it's the Fellowship of the Ring, the extended version.
Yeah. Because it's essentially the exact same film. Like, the course of the, duration changes, not the final product at all.
That's right. And much like Aliens, it's just sort of more stuff in there. It doesn't alter the film in any way. It just sort of, like, they're just more under the pressure. They're in even more deep shit than the theatrical one version. So, yeah, and not to mention, Peter Jackson has said, like, it was his cut for the Fellowship. Like, there was a bit of argy-bargy on a couple of scenes, but I think he got his way on most of it.
Yeah, another thing that really bugs the shit out of me when people ask for these cuts is, like, asking for, like, extended versions, director's cut, and all this kind of just nonsense, really, is it'll somehow make a shit movie good. Like, people need to understand, like, editing things can only improve stuff so minimally.
Like, yeah, if you watched a movie and thought it was bad,
and re-edit is not going to fix that. Yeah,
yeah, I know, right? Just imagine the stuff they thought was not good enough. It's a bit of a logic trap to fall into. I think one of the top comments I read on Reddit when The Rise of Skywalker came out and wasn't overly well received.
Yeah,
it's someone, like, immediately, like 5 seconds later. So when are they going to release the Abrams cut? Are we just got to do this now with every shit movie? Like, go and see it and then want, a longer version of it?
See, but that's what really got me confused as well. Like, I was listening to someone talk about this the other day when they were like, apparently there's a George Lucas cut, there's an Abrams cut, there's a Johnson cut, there's an Iger cut, and there's a Kennedy cut. You people are fucking insane if you think there's 6 different versions of Star Wars Episode 9. Like, yeah, you are off with the fairies if you think that was true.
Yeah, I think what was going on, well, it was just such a mess to sort of, get made. There was just so many conflicting visions on how to wrap it all up, and it really shows in the film. It's just so confusing. There's so much stuff crammed into there, trying to please everyone, and ended up pleasing very few.
How do you open that fucking door? Yeah, well, another good example is, I remember when people were non-stop going fucking bananas over the Ivan Ortega re-edit for The Last Jedi, talking about this is gonna fix it, this is what it should have been. It's essentially the exact same movie. It's the exact same movie, just with Canto Bight removed. That's really all it came down to. Like, you can insert footage, you can mirror scenes, you can change context all you want, but, like, you're never gonna change sort of the final product. Like you can, like, what is it, new packaging, same product?
Yeah. It's such a...
What a waste of talent, by the way. Like, the guy is obviously very talented. Why the fuck would you waste it on a movie that apparently no one liked at the time? Like,
Well, it was such a weird, wild time when it was released in 2017 and into 2018. It's such a weird.
What the fuck
I don't
am
think
I
there's been
forgetting?
a.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a reaction quite like it online for a movie. Like I don't think anything else has come close to the furor that movie generated. I'm trying to think. I'm coming up empty. I know. I'm intrigued about this Francis Ford Coppola film Megalopolis because this is meant to be just a
Yeah.
king-size disaster of epic proportions. Like some of the reviews, and it's quite funny how, Mark Commode said, he was asked on a Q&A to reviews that, hurt a movie. He goes, no, it doesn't. Like some of the reviews I'm reading about this Megalopolis are so bizarre. I almost have to go see it. It's just meant to be just, yeah, like no one can really seem to accurately summarize what it's actually about or what's good or bad about it. It's just bizarre. Like what kind of, like you almost have to go check it out, right? Like the monkey paw wish.
Well, I saw it, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
That bullshit that everyone's hiding behind. Well, I had to go and see it to see how bad it is, because I'm a reviewer. Like, another one that gets me the most is, I didn't even pay to see this movie. One of my friends did it for me. Well, then your friend's a dipshit, then. Like, your friend shouldn't be hanging around you.
Yeah, I'd like to know. You should check out the American version of Speak No Evil. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, and because that was a movie that did not do sort of well marketing wise. That because it's a remake of a I think it's a Danish or a Dutch film from 2022, and that really sort of made a splash in horror circles when that came out. It's a movie you'll never forget, and not in terms of gore or violence or anything like that. It's just the foreign film just creates just such an amazing atmosphere of dread, and like something bad is coming. You literally can't take your eyes away from it, and just sort of these mundane things this family on a holiday are doing, and the American version's really different up to a point. So I think both of them sort of really stand side by side. And which is, I mean, what's the point of remaking something if you just do it sort of shot for shot and don't change anything? I think, like, with the right attitude and the right frame of mind, you can take a remake and really put your own spin on it.
The one that gets me the most about the remakes is, like, it'll be a shot-for-shot remake, and then they'll toss out the last 3 pages of the script and totally arse-end the foreign ending.
Yeah, well, I liked how it updated the sensibilities. The original film is a Danish and Dutch couple, and the American version is an American and British couple. And I mean, every sort of country has their own sort of idiosyncrasies and habits with their people. So it almost sort of necessitated some changes. Yeah, I really liked them, and one thing I never thought I'd say, if I had to recommend one, I'd probably go with the American version. I have a bit more fun with it.
God, I'm getting really over this shit. Alright, we got there in the end. Yeah, well, I watched it so you don't have to. Yeah, like, I'm trying to think, like, what's something that I've seen. Well, you see, here's the problem, because internet discourse, the opinions swing, like, from week to week. Like it's a real problem. Like a good example is this Jurassic Park 7 that's coming out next year. Now, everyone has just been going nuts over the fact that Gareth Edwards is directing it, and they're talking about Rogue One. But in particular, the one that I find quite shocking is they're talking about what a great job he did on Godzilla 2014. Now, I loved that film when it came out. I haven't seen it in a while. I've been meaning to dust it off and check it out again. I remember everyone ripped Gareth Edwards to fucking shreds over that film. Oh, the action's always happening off screen. You can barely see it. It's too dark. It's like Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Now all of a sudden it's the shit. Like, well, it's 10 years removed now. And I'm like, God, man, imagine what these reviews would have been like had we have seen it for what it was back then. I'll have to see it and see if it even holds up anymore. I really did enjoy it when it came out. But now everyone likes it now. Oh, alright. I was like Rhinox in Dark Designs. You're on his side now? A guy can hardly keep track.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time. I'd have to revisit it as well. The 2014 Godzilla.
I remember really enjoying it. I'm not going to pretend that I hated it back then. It took over my entire life when I saw that back in the day, and I thought it was really, really good. I need to get it, but I remember all the reviews were like, "Don't go into this." Like, I think Stuckman said that. Don't go into this expecting Pacific Rim, and that was like one of the major criticisms of that film. Now everyone fucking loves it. Like, yes, which is why I wasn't at all kind of phased when people started talking about it. Oh yeah, he's gonna make Jurassic Park great again. Oh my god! Every time I hear that from any sort of like fandom or anything like that, it's gonna make insert whatever franchise name great again. I immediately just glaze over and stop giving a shit about what comes out of their mouth next.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's an interesting comment, because I don't think Pacific Rim was all that well received when it came out.
I don't think it was, because one of the major ones that I always heard of was people criticise the film towards the tail end because the CGI kind of takes a bit of a plummet towards the end. Now maybe the production just went over budget, who knows? But I remember that was a major thing. Like the tail end of the film just did not look as good as the rest of it. Who knows just how true that is anyway. I mean, like I was saying before, the way they move the goalposts from time to time, and now all of a sudden Gareth is the man.
Yeah, well that, I do remember the CGI was not much to write home about. That I remember. And it was way too long, with not a lot of meat on its bones. But how often have we seen that sort of phenomenon? I mean, like, I never thought I'd see the day that the Star Wars prequels were well received. You know, George Lucas was ripped to shreds in the early 2000s, and now, you know, come back, George, all is forgiven. Like, so many sort of things, it seems, like with the passage of time. You know, I remember Stephen King's Dark Tower ending when that was released, and like the amount of, you know, pissing vinegar about that. And now I was kind of taken aback when I was sort of looking for some recent reaction of it, just how many people in comments and discussions say pretty much what King said at the time. It's the only ending that could have worked. It's really bizarre. And like the ending of Dexter, it's a show I did not watch, but it pops up in these sort of conversations from time to time. People are sort of coming around on that as the only ending, because that, I never watched that show, but the ending pissed a lot of people off who stuck with it. And shows like Lost and other things as well, like there's not really a lot of pushback or sort of rage or people upset over that ending. Like, if, you know, people shut the fuck up for 5 seconds and listen to, you know, Christian Shepherd's speech, you know, they generally can't.
I'm truly baffled about people who watched the end, the finale of Lost. I'm truly baffled that people watched that and walked out of it thinking they were dead the whole time. I'm utterly fucking blown away by that.
Yeah. I think in a way the show lived up to its ethos about you have to watch it again. Like, there's so many sort of moments or that don't seem like much at the time, but on a rewatch, you do catch it, and they bring that forward to the surface plot where Locke says in an episode, "We're going to need to watch that again." He's not talking to Jack; he's talking to the audience. So when you sort of, and it's hard to sort of take because it's such an unexpected return when you see Christian again. So you're sort of only kind of half watching and half listening to him, just wanting to get back to the main cast. So you kind of miss a little bit, I feel, about his explanation about what's really going on, and they're finally turning all their cards over. But then you go back and watch it again, and it's brilliant. You know, what an epic sort of payoff to an epic show. So, yeah, I don't see a lot of pushback on that anymore either.
Is someone on this team going to stop these guys from planting my ass or what? Like, that's like the fucking 15th time I've just been rolled on this map by a fucking lost soul. Yeah, I agree. I really did enjoy my rewatch of Lost. Now that everyone's fucking got it out of their systems, it was nice to just... I mean, the world's quieter now. You just got to listen. And see, and I think that is kind of my thing, like why I don't really watch a whole lot of TV anymore, because online discourse and all of that. Now, I know there's some people out there that are just like, well, just why don't you watch the show and just not listen to any of these idiots? I'm like, well, ideally that's what you should do, but, you know, the way everything's all interconnected and people watching your watch history and shit all the time, it's not really as avoidable as what people think it is anymore. And, you know, yeah, no, like, I think the whole, like, concept of watching something from start to finish and all of that, and especially when it's a live, ongoing thing, like, I probably haven't done it since Lost, if I'm being honest. I think that whole, yeah, that art is just totally lost on me. I know there's been a whole slew of shows that have come out that people have just been going rank over, and you got to get on this, it's awesome, and I'm sure it is, but it's not really for me, I think.
Yeah, and the game has changed. The playing field has changed. When, like, I was reading a good article, it's a great headline there. I don't know if it was a couple of months ago or even last year. There's a sci-fi movie with Jennifer Lopez that Netflix produced. And the headline for this review was, it's the perfect movie to half watch while you're doing laundry. And I was reading or listening to someone the other day where Netflix or one of these streamers are pioneering that sort of technology, where you got something on, like you're looking at one screen when it's really two screens, where while you're endlessly scrolling, sort of half watching, half paying attention to something. And I read somewhere else or heard from someone else that's pretty much how these things are produced and made now. They're not made. They're churning out content that, yeah, you half watch while you're folding laundry or, you know, doing the dishes. There's such a glut and churn of material now that people only half watch and then get upset about.
The ending didn't make sense. Well, if you put your phone down for fucking 5 minutes and you actually watched it, you might have figured it out. What does Professor Snape say?
About that.
People who feel confident enough to not pay attention.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but yeah, that gave me the shits the other day, where someone was complaining about a plot hole and, like, did you fall asleep? It's like the movie explained that, like, the third or fourth scene in. And another thing about sort of movie and television show criticism, it's not really genuine criticism. It's I didn't like where they went with the story, and therefore I don't like it, and it's shit, which is not quite the same thing as critiquing, like, the flaws and strengths of some product. Like, a lot of, if I see something I like and go and sort of get some reaction from it, good or bad, a lot of it seems to revolve around, you know, they thought it was shit. But that's just a sort of personal opinion. It's not a genuine analysis of it.
Well, isn't that some riveting commentary from the sidelines? I thought it was shit. Great, and you got 1 million subscribers. Fucking awesome. Well, I guess that makes you the voice of all reason when it comes to what's good and bad. Fucking Baron of Hell. God, the double barrel shotgun is a fucking beast of a weapon, isn't it? Just fucking bang. Yeah, well, genuine criticism. Yeah, see, that's something that has cropped up quite a bit as well. I've noticed that point that you were just talking about. It is quite baffling from time to time. Like, when people are talking about what a film got wrong, it really does come down to just that they didn't like it. Like, but what gets me the most is that they know they didn't like. They feel like they didn't like it, but they can't really articulate why they don't like it.
Yeah, I have a theory on what might be going on there. Because I was kind of really bemused by the criticism around the latest Thor movie. Now, I haven't seen that, but when you're sort of interested in checking it out, the consensus was it was too funny, like there were too many jokes. It's kind of weird. So you're telling me you had too much of a good time? Like, I've never hated a movie from laughing too hard, you know? Unless, of course, a lot of the jokes in comedy didn't land, and that can happen. You know, a lot of comedies are sort of DOA when they come out, but I thought it was a really weird sort of comment to keep reading from, you know, professional reviewers and even, you know, on social media. Yeah, there was too much comedy, too many jokes. It kept taking me out of the film. I had too much of a good time with it. It was. We're
talking about a Thor movie, correct? Like,
yeah, and I haven't sort of kept up to date with Thor's sort of solo films. I've only ever seen the first one, but yeah, I was really bemused by those kinds of comments. I kind of maybe have a theory on what's going on there. Is just well, for one thing, just how long the MCU's been around. I think 2008 to now is, 14 or 15 years. And if you were a sort of child, you know, you're a grown man now. And if you were the target audience of like 8 to 12, who was sort of immersed in it and inundated with it and was obsessed with it, you know, you're a grown man now, a grown woman. And I think maybe what's going on here is we want the things we loved as kids to grow up with us. Because the MCU movies have always had humor in them. Like even Captain America, which kind of, you know, we did a discussion on The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Which sort of borrows heavily from, you know, 1970s conspiracy political thrillers. Like there's plenty of jokes in that movie. It's one of the pillars that whole MCU was built on is comedy in it. But maybe what's really going on now is a lot of the humor isn't landing anymore because they're not kids anymore. People who continue to watch this stuff, which is aimed at kids, like, I'm sorry, but that's just the fact, you know?
Yeah.
I know there's a couple of them that are sort of hit all ages, and you can't do the business that Endgame did if it doesn't appeal to huge swaths of people. I understand all that, but primarily they're targeted at, you know, children. So I think maybe for a lot of their fans that are sort of persevering with this stuff when, you know, well past the age they should have stopped, they're not sort of happy that they're still sort of kid-friendly with comedy. But perhaps that's what's got sort of going on there.
Yeah.
Like I want the thing I loved as a kid to grow up with me. So it needs to be more sophisticated and sort of darker and more mature.
That's how you know it's mature.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, yeah, I think you're right there, because another one that gets me a lot is this Jurassic Park 7 next year, Jurassic World Rebirth, I believe it's called. The idea, like, it needs to go back to being dark and violent, stop making it so kid friendly, yet the same people who are making that criticism will turn around and say, oh yeah, I remember seeing the first one in theaters when I was like 6. Guys, Jurassic Park has always been for children. And before you start screaming about Michael Crichton's book, this franchise has evolved so far beyond that book. It's never going to be that. And if you saw the first film as a child, and you're expecting it to go full-on corporate espionage in-gen mode, and incredibly violent, you are chasing a dream. If you think Universal are going to alienate their children viewer base, who is 100% what that target market is for, Jurassic is for kids. They're not going to do that. They will never do that.
Yeah, and it's the same with Star Wars as well. One comment I keep hearing a lot is, it's one of the criticisms at the sequel trilogy is, they never showed Rey training. I mean, let's disregard the fact that they hardly ever showed Luke training either, but that's by the by. And Rey never struggled. Rey was never under any real pressure. Debatable, but let's go with it. It's 2024. I don't know about America or whatever, but in Australia, a woman is killed every 3 days because of domestic violence. Disney and Lucasfilm are never ever going to show a woman getting brutalized or any of that sort of stuff. They're not going to show, like, Rey's never going to get her arm cut off. Look, I'm sorry, Star Wars fans, it's not happening.
But what gets me the most is, why would you want to see that though? Like, I don't want to see. 'Cause that was actually, if I'm being honest, back in 2017 when The Last Jedi was coming out, I was afraid that that's what they were going to do, because all you could ever hear was Mary Sue this, Mary Sue that, and I was afraid that Rian Johnson might overcorrect it and like cut off one of her legs or something. And I was like, yeah. I was worried that they might try to overcorrect it, but I'm so glad they didn't. Like, they would have had her end up like a quadriplegic, so like Anakin was, and I'm like, thank God they didn't do that.
Yeah, it's just like the fact that these hardcore Star Wars fans can't see that. It just beggars belief. Like, and it also sounds really boring. Like, I don't know where this myth that, like, it's shown that Luke did heaps and heaps of training. Like, I reckon it would.
He gave Yoda screen time. He gave Yoda a piggyback ride. Like, it should have been Warren, piggyback ride.
Yeah,
that's all he did.
I just assume he did all his training off camera.
Yeah, he did, because he's all of a sudden he's a hard ass in episode 6. Like, and yeah. I've got another criticism to go on this as well, and I'm like, well, look at the kind of Padawan learner status that you see, the kind of training that Jedis go through in episodes 1, like in the prequels and all of that. What kind of training do you people want to see Rey actually do that hasn't otherwise already been done in this series? You're just retreading old ground. Like,
yeah, I can't think of anything more boring than showing that sort of stuff. It's like I had a friend years ago who I recommended 24, the Kiefer Sutherland show, to them, but she just couldn't take it. I said, no, you'll love it. It's fast paced. There's lots of twists and turns. It's
fast paced. It takes 24 hours.
Yeah, it's a bit of a novelty. The entire show is like they're 24 episode long seasons. And she just could not get over the fact you never see him eat or go to the toilet or whatever. I just assume he did it during the ad breaks or when the scene cuts to somewhere else for another storyline.
Well, when
And the
we're on the verge of bioterrorism, taking a piss is probably the last thing on my mind.
yeah, and the creators kind of leaned into it because apparently this was kind of common. Because again, that's another show I sort of never watched when it first came out. Like I think I became a fan of it when like season 7 was on, so I got up to speed and watched it from that point on. So the showrunners were going to like have this sort of opening to a scene where Jack is coming out of the bathroom going, "Wow, I was holding that in for hours," but they just ignored it completely. Like, get a grip, guys. I just assumed he went during like when the action cuts back to the White House or whatever. And there is they actually did sneak in one shot. There's a blink and you miss it shot of him having breakfast at the start of season 5. So he does eat at least once during the entire show. But yeah, I never
wondered
really
where that
see,
fucking Hell Knight went to. Yeah.
like these training montages. It's a Star Wars film. It's not a Rocky movie.
And not to mention, one of the things that I always heard was they wanted to see, because of that Snoke line at the end of episode 7, they wanted to see Darkseid training. Why? Like that's my only question. Why? Because we haven't seen it before. But you're wasting screen time filling that shit in.
Yeah, it was actually a good move by Johnson, I think. So when Kylo Ren does get back to Snoke, he's channeling a bit of Mel Gibson. Yeah, whatever, who cares? We're moving on.
You know what I would have done when he starts hanging shit on Kylo that he got his ass kicked by a girl? I would have just had him channel a bit more of it, going, okay, correct, okay, good. Like, I would have just had him carry on. Like, I would have had Kylo walk into Snoke's red throne room and just be like, oh, you're there. And just start hanging it on him. One of the things that I loved the most, and I saw this, like what really kind of pissed everyone off was the fact that Snoke was wasted potential. Outside of making him Darth Plagueis, which is a boring idea anyway, what potential? What are you talking about? I'm glad Ryan offed him the way that he did, because he was a waste of time. The more time he had on screen, the worse it was going to be.
Yeah, he was a really poorly conceived character in hindsight, and even, in actual sight when they were coming out. I tell you a movie that was aimed at kids, but I had a blast with it. Have you ever heard of Paddington?
The Bear.
The Bear?
Yeah. I know what it is, but I haven't seen it, yeah.
Yeah, this is going to sound strange, man, but I had an urge to... I haven't seen them either, but I watched the first film on Sunday. I had an absolute blast with it. It is just such a terrific film. I may even get around to recommending discussing that. I had an absolute blast with it. It's predominantly aimed at sort of children, but it's just it's a fun movie for the whole family. The whole family will enjoy that film. It's really well acted. The plot clips over at a steady pace. It's a good lean hour and a half, and it's genuinely funny. Like the situations Paddington finds himself in, I was laughing several times through it, and just had a big dumb grin on my face the whole way through it. It's a
which
really
is
good
ideally
movie.
what you want when you're watching a film, I like to think. Which is why when things like this happen, just totally perplex me what people want out of a theatre. Like when I see people talking, again, to use Jurassic, because that's the one that hangs on my mind. When people keep going into this going, oh yeah, it wasn't as good as the first one, but they keep talking about the Jurassic franchise. In particular, how much they hated Dominion, because apparently it wasn't about dinosaurs. Fucking... The thing that gets me the most about it is... You're going into Jurassic Park 6, what the fuck are you expecting? Like... I find it like you're going into Star Wars 9, what are you expecting? Like, if you think there's some untapped potential where you're going to get some amazing Academy Award winning, just recapture lightning in a bottle. What? Whatever you're on, you need to reduce the dosage.
Yeah, and we've seen that before with, the Transformers films. People,
They're toys.
well, you look at the reception to Transformers The Last Night. Like, there's only, like, how many? If you did not enjoy them, if you haven't bought a ticket and got on board by now, why on earth would you go and see the fifth one and be upset about it? It's by the same director of the first four, the same producers, the same writers, predominantly the same cast, the same guy who does the music. You go into the fifth one expecting anything different. Like hello McFly, anyone home?
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, why? like the point you just made. Like, why on earth would you expect anything different?
Which is why I'm sitting back, and we're noticing it now. Like, one thing that I have noticed in the Jurassic circles, at least, I find quite funny. All of a sudden, Jurassic Park 3 is in the cool club. Like, no one liked that when that came out.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden...
And the proof is in the pudding. If people did love it, there would not have been a 14 or 15 or however long it was year gap.
Yeah, a 14-year wait between installments. Yeah. And people are all of a sudden talking about what Joe Johnston got right. You did nothing but run the guy into the fucking ground over the last, like, almost 2 decades. And now all of a sudden JP3 is in the cool club and people want Bill Macy back. Alright. Like I was saying before, Rhinox had it right. Rhinox had it right when he said, God, a guy can hardly keep track.
Yeah, I'm glad, I like Joe Johnston, and I'm glad, Jurassic Park 3 did do well, I think, commercially.
I believe it did, but it didn't quite break the ground they wanted it to, I think, was the catch.
Yeah. Well, partly because there was only one way to go but down. It's and this is something that sort of, The Dark Knight kind of changed for the like the lessons we sort of learned from that were probably not good in hindsight, because historically speaking, like, sequels didn't do as well as the original film. Like, Empire did not make as much money as the first Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones didn't make as much as the Phantom Menace. Although the Revenge of the Sith had a slight uptick back up. It did slightly more than Episode 2, but like, it was Nolan's film that, like, Batman Begins came out and did okay. It was a reasonably big hit, but it was also extremely well received critically, and then The Dark Knight comes out and just conquers everything before it, where we started sort of realizing, now the sequel has to be bigger and better and sort of do 10 times better than the original. And with a couple of exceptions, that's generally hasn't been the case a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Where normally sequels are just a quick cash grab, and you sort of try and dupe the audience into 3 or 4 before they run you out of town forever.
See, what's confusing me the most, though, in particular with Jurassic, so you give them something new, they don't like it, and then they say it's nostalgia baiting bullshit, and then when you gauge what fans are saying on, like, Reddit or whatever, all you're getting is shit like, we need a movie set between 1 and 2. So which is it? Is it nostalgia baiting crap, or are we going to try and recreate the 90s because you're feeling nostalgic? Like, but this is why I'm kind of glad that, like, Jurassic is more of a Amblin thing than it is a Universal thing, and they haven't gone so crazy with all these kind of projects. Like, they could go nuts and set things in the 90s anytime. Like, they could announce that 20 years from now, that's all they're going to do. Like, it's not... I just find it interesting. Like they want new, but they don't so much want... What am I trying to say? They want the production value of the 90s to be recreated, not the film set in the 90s, if that makes sense. Like, they want VHSs to be a thing. Like, they want the touchscreen CD-ROMs in the car. Like, they want to recreate the 90s, because they weren't adults at the time, but they think if they have that sort of go-between again, that somehow they're making up for lost time. It's something like that. It's not... It very little has anything to do with the actual film anymore. It's more about trying to... What if I was an adult when the first film came out? Well, we now have the production techniques to do that now. It is what it kind of feels like to me.
Yeah.
Where the fuck am I supposed to be going? Which is why I always bait them when they start saying, oh, it's just all the endless throwbacks to the original film. Which is why I always use Terminator 2 as the example for this. Now, I do love Terminator 2, but it's the easiest example that I can take to sort of use against these people. And that is, it's a sequel so universally loved, I take it. Oh, well, the T-800 just said, I'll be back again. Horse shit. Throwback to the original film. Fucking garbage. Can't stand that shit.
Yeah.
And then you quickly realise the argument totally falls apart. Yeah.
Well, I think in a weird way, like, because T2 was so groundbreaking, like, it just cast a giant shadow for the rest of that decade, because it came out in 1991. Look, imagine the poster of Terminator 2 in your mind, and then picture the poster of The Matrix in 1999. You know, leather jackets, sunglasses, machine guns, you know. It just cast such a strong visual aesthetic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, like, it just inspired so much of that decade going forward. You know, for good and bad reasons. That's how sort of groundbreaking it was. But yeah, it's such a weird sort of time.
Where the fuck... It's not in here somewhere, is it? Where was that little... I was in some... No, that's the blue door there. Where the fuck was I before? I can't remember. Yeah, I just like using it because... Okay, so let me get this straight. Like, another example was the Tyrannosaurus in Fallen Kingdom doing the same pose as when dinosaurs ruled the Earth. Everyone said that was bullshit. It was too on the nose. It was an obvious throwback. It was lazy. It was lame. It was this, that, and the other. Where do all these guys come from? Again, well then, alright then, let's take just about any other scene that was a beat-for-beat shot out of Terminator 1 that's in Terminator 2. All of a sudden it's okay, because it's a film that they like. Like, it's... Like, this is what sequels do, like, recontextualizing shit that already happened. Every sequel you can think of does that. Every single one of them. You know, like, that's what they're pretty much designed to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to believe as well how groundbreaking the first Terminator was as well. Like, again, and just sort of how it set the tone for action movies going forward. But we learned the wrong lessons from it. You know, like picture the Terminator 1 poster in your mind, and then picture Stallone's Cobra poster right next to it.
It's the exact same movie.
Yeah. It's you know, the lesson to learn from the Terminator was not sunglasses and machine guns and sort of creating that unstoppable presence. The lesson from the Terminator is you can make a good movie with not a whole lot of money, with a slick idea, a great script, and really well done execution of it. Like, that's the lesson we should have learned from the Terminator 1 that we didn't. We just got so many Terminator knockoffs.
Yeah, Cybertracker, mate. The one that gets me the most about that, one of the best descriptions I think I ever heard for Terminator 1 was, it's basically a B-list horror film when you look at it. Like, it's not... Like, people's memory of Terminator 1 is better than what Terminator 1 actually is. Like, people talk about, oh, it was this massive franchise starter and all of that. It wasn't. It was a B-list fucking horror movie that no one really cared about when it was coming out.
Well, that's how it was certainly treated, yeah. It's the way it was sort of marketed and the way it was promoted, it really did break free of its B movie sort of shackles, didn't it? Because it was a couple of things made it stand out. It should have been like in every other reality in the multiverse. It is like it came out, it didn't do well, and it's like we've got 20 shitty direct-to-video Terminator movies. But
Yeah.
one thing that made it better than a B movie is it's really well acted by the three leads. It's the sort of intense acting you don't often see in B movies, where they kind of sort of know they're just doing it for the paycheck. This seemed to be, it's really intensely acted by all three of those leads.
Yeah.
That's one thing that really sets it apart from a lot of B movies, because even the cover and the back description of it, like it's B movie. It's in the sweet spot of B movie territory. But yeah, the way and the action is really intense in it as well. And again, because it's really well written and you care about the character.
Oh shit!
Well acted,
Oh, fucking Revenant. Up
B
the
movies
arse.
generally aren't all that well written and aren't that well acted. So even it might have good action, but you just don't really care what you're seeing. So that's one thing that Terminator, it really did just break free and had a life of its own, didn't it?
I think another thing as well, that when it comes to these sequels, because we're 40 years removed from Terminator 1, people have got to start realizing that like, so when we go into things like Dark Fate and all of that, and people are like, oh, I mean, like, one of the things that I see a lot of reviewers doing that just really rubs me up the wrong way in a very rapid way is they'll say something to the effect of, oh, well, look at look at the beginnings of this franchise and look at what it's become now. Do you think for one moment that's exactly why you can't fucking enjoy anything that these things do, is because you're going into it constantly looking backwards?
Yeah.
Do you think for 1 minute that might be your problem, not the actual film itself?
Yeah.
Just something worth
And it's
thinking
hard
about.
for the majority of franchises now, there are now more bad entries than good ones. And that's true for the Terminator now. There's more bad Terminator films than good ones.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple of approaches they can make. Like, one approach is maybe they stumbled by, it's going to sound weird, but like a good approach or a possible approach is you just go back to the first one and forget the rest of them. But that means throwing out Terminator 2 as well.
I've heard this a couple of times.
sounds-
One of the problems is they keep using T2 as the jumping off point, but
Yeah.
they don't want to give that one up.
Yeah. So yeah, you just go back to the first original, whatever it was, and build your story from there. But that's not what they're going to do. Jim Cameron was in the press the other day saying it's this new one is an honest to God full hard reset reboot. So even all the iconography's going out. Like, no I'll be back, no sunglasses, no leather jacket, no motorbike. It's an honest to God, forget everything that came before.
Good.
So yeah, bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
I mean, what more can you say to that other than good? That's what it needs. You know, because like there was that moment in Dark Fate where Carl, the fucking T-800 of that film, because there's another one that came back from nowhere and no one needed to explain where it came, like Pops or the Guardian or whatever the fuck it was called in Genesis. God, there was a Baron of Hell there. Fucking hell. I'm sorry, I was just totally caught off guard by that. I wasn't expecting them to cock block my exit strategy. That moment when Carl picks up the glasses and then he says, "Not this time," and puts them back down. I was kind of glad that happened, because I was like, because I wasn't overly thrilled about Arnold being another T-800. Like, one of my things was going into Dark Fate, I was sitting there going, if he's another T-800, because there was nothing in the trailer, or at least not in the first one, that said that he was. If he's another T-800, they're just taking the piss at this point. But I was quite happy with how that all kind of played out. But I mean, the Age Terminator concept thing, like it, I don't think anyone really kind of warmed up to it.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things going on there. Perhaps, the Terminator is his most iconic role. It's the one he'll be most remembered for. He's played other good roles. He was Conan as well.
Everything looks the fucking same in this level. Like, God.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe he couldn't. And you don't kind of want to dilute that. If he's suddenly a human or someone else, that maybe it sort of kind of dilutes his legacy a little bit, because it'll just be the Terminator. God forbid when the day arrives, it'll be, his obituary, like the Terminator, star of the Terminator, and then a couple of other things. That's his most iconic role.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I didn't quite think about it
so
that
by
way.
playing human and maybe, I've never really sort of been that interested in it, but I guess I can concede there probably is a story there to tell about why they do look like that. But maybe the time to do that was in the 90s. The time to do it has probably been and gone.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like that, isn't it? I think
it's probably a character that needs to be played by a much younger man.
Which I think the body double for the Genesis clone is perfect for it. By the way, they should just let Brett Azar do it. But anyway, I don't know why. Well, I think this stems into the bigger problem, doesn't it? And that is, for some reason, there's just this massive stigma around recasting roles. I don't see anything bad with it. I honestly think that's what they should have done with Leia for Episode 9. Like, I reckon age up Marissa Tomei or someone, and they could have done something a bit better with that, because, but apparently you can't do that. It's against the rules or some shit.
Yeah, I cannot believe this nonsense has been allowed to go on as long as it has. It's, in my opinion, it's an unpopular one, but it's totally ridiculous. I mean, this de-aging software and these de-aging effects all look terrible. It's a very unhealthy kind of thing to adopt. Again, I think it's this sort of infantilization of sort of pop culture where because we never had any of this stuff when I was a kid. If an actor got too old or was sadly no longer with us, there's a saying in show business: the show must go on. They recast Bond and they recast Batman and.
But all of a sudden, it's a problem now, and I can't for the life of me understand why.
Yeah, I can't. The CGI for Leia looked terrible in Rogue One, and I never even bothered with the new Indiana Jones, and it was kind of a bit garish with the young Robert Downey Jr. in Captain America Civil War. But here's another real unpopular opinion. I don't think they'll ever square that circle. They'll never. I just think the way the human brain is and the way the eyes work, I just think this horse shit I keep hearing about, oh yeah, we're going to bring back John Wayne and he's going to be in the new action movie, and this is all head up your ass nonsense, I think. They are never ever. I don't believe so. I don't believe they'll never convincingly be able to CGI an actor who's passed away and fool you into thinking that that's real. I don't think it'll ever happen. But in 5 months from now, I probably will. So now that I've said it,
Well, the thing that gets me the most is why the fuck would you want to turn John Wayne into a Force ghost through CGI? As if anyone from the age of, 13 to 28 going to the movies is going to know who the fuck that is.
yeah.
We're a bit too far removed.
Well, that's what I've sort of read, and that's what I've kind of sort of heard about, sort of following this sort of stuff, like, Cary Grant and Ava Gardner and all these sort of actresses and actors from the Hollywood, like, Fay Wray, and I think they're dreaming. I even think they won't even be able to do it in terms of audio. Like, I'm hearing and reading stuff about, that they'll still continue to have Darth Vader voiced by James L. Jones, unless they're recycling lines he's already recorded. I don't even think that'll sound good. Like, there's this notion that maybe it's easier with software and sort of voice capture or whatever, but I don't think that'll even work all that well.
But I think that is incredibly disrespectful to the person in question that has passed away. I think,
I believe though that he was okay with it in life.
That's
okay.
okay.
I think he's okay with it.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. What bugs the shit out of me though is, okay, so let me get this straight. Because the guy who did it's dead, no one can take a crack at it. Some of my favourite takes on Luke Skywalker aren't even fucking Mark Hamill. Who was the random who did the voice in the 64 version of Rogue Squadron? When I think Luke Skywalker, I think that guy, and I don't even know his name. That pops into my head before Mark Hamill does.
Yeah, and we never would have got Heath Ledger's Joker performance. So many actors would have never got the opportunity if this was the norm, even 10 or 15 years ago. And what I love about it is so different, and that's why Ledger knew he could do it. He talked in the press about, I'm not trying to mimic Jack Nicholson. He wants to do his own thing and do his own take on the character.
Had he have just knocked off Jack Nicholson, no one would have liked that film. It needed to be different. That's something that, I think that's where I was trying to go before. It was, okay, so if someone voices Darth Vader who's not James L. Jones, that doesn't remove James L. Jones from the discourse at all, Okay, the guy is no longer with us. The guy was just shy of 100 years old, for God's sake. He's voiced Vader in just all of his major appearances in the media that the series was created in. It started his life as a film. He's voiced him in all of those capacities. There's been some people that have taken a crack at it in some of the cartoons and the video games and all that kind of stuff. That's cool. No one complained. But it's like this, we definitely can't recast it now because it will diminish that. It doesn't do that. He will always be Darth Vader in those films, and that's all that really matters with me.
And and I don't know, it's a bit distasteful because I think a lot of the, say what you want about the prequel dialogue, and plenty has been said about it. There's nothing in the prequels that's as shit as careful you don't choke on your ambition.
Yeah.
That is just fucking cringe as fuck.
That one-liner that Darth Vader says in fucking Rogue One is the reason why I'm battling alcoholism. Because it was so just fucking... it was literally just a moment. It was so fucking... Oh my God.
Seriously, you got James L. Jones in to do that? The guy's in his 80s, for Christ's sake.
You know what I'd have done? The moment in Empire Strikes Back when the asteroid hits the bridge of that Star Destroyer and one of the guys fades out in the hologram? I would release another special edition, the Disney version, and I would have James L. Jones. Let's audio remix a line where he goes, "Well, that will rock you." Like, or something dumb like that. Like, he picks up the Emperor. I've always wanted to overthrow you, and then chucks him off the balcony. Like, it's so.
Don't give them any ideas.
It's so, I'm sure someone at Disney is furiously scribbling these ideas down.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad. Like, when people were talking about, oh man, like, it gives. If you thought him saying Padme was a deal breaker, but the choking pun gets off scot-free, you are off your head, mate.
Yeah.
I actually think it was pretty cool. Like, I remember thinking that, like, when I was just very, very young, when I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters. I just remember thinking how awesome it was that Vader actually said the name Padme. In the full suit. I just thought that was so cool. I know a lot of people thought it was awesome that Mark Hamill as Luke said the name Darth Sidious in The Last Jedi. I'm like, mate, I already got that feeling when Vader said Padme's name. I mean, who'd have thought that would have happened? It was just so cool to hear James L. Jones say that name in a Star Wars film. Just so cool, man. So cool.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've revisited Revenge of the Sith.
I think the last time I saw that from start to finish is when we watched it that one Christmas, however long ago. That would have been when Episode 7 came out. That's probably the last time I saw that. It has been a minute, like almost a decade, since I've seen Revenge of the Sith from start to finish.
Yeah, the one, interestingly enough, because it often ranks the worst, the one I tend to be drawn to is Attack of the Clones.
I was just about to say that. That's the one I've revisited the most out of the three. I really enjoy Clones, yeah.
I read a wonderful line on Reddit the other day about someone said, like, Attack of the Clones, I don't think there's been a movie quite like it. And yeah, that's a really good insight. I agree. I don't think there is a movie quite like Attack of the Clones.
Well, even in regards to just the other 6 or 9, your mileage may vary. It's almost like the only Star Wars film of its type, isn't it? Like, no other film out of the... Or at least out of the Lucas lot is anything like that. It's just so uniquely different from the other 5.
Yeah.
Attack
also,
of the
the time
Clones.
period it came out, it was... it was sort of one of the very first sort of post 9/11 movies that sort of kind of touched on that. It was just a really interesting time in the world. You know, the early 2000s. There is some sort of echoes in some of the storylines to what had happened. It's a really. It always sort of gives me a lot to think about, that film.
Well, the opening scene, like the explosion to kill Padme's decoy, like it starts with just an open act of terrorism, doesn't it? Like, it pulls no punches.
It's
in its intro.
Really interesting.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones. See, that's probably, like, I know we haven't done a Star Wars film discussion because, like, the internet's got that covered, but that's probably the one that I would go for. Out of a lot of them, like Attack of the Clones. Like, I just think it's got a lot more... Like, it consistently ranks as, like, the worst out of the Lucas lot. Like, I don't think it's particularly that bad. Like, it's funny when you keep seeing everyone's lists of their favourite ones, because usually it goes something along these lines. Blah, 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 Empire's the best. Blah, 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 maybe A New Hope. You know, blah, blah, blah. It's just so run-of-the-mill. Like, they all work on a script. Like, that's cool. I mean, like, if you like Empire and you think it's the bee's knees, that's all great. I mean, good on ya. It's sitting over there. You can go and watch it right now. But my list, like, my favorite out of the lot, believe it or not, is actually The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, that's my favorite as well. And it's another thing as well that's changed. Like, history's been rewritten. Attack of the Clones got much better reviews than The Phantom Menace. And The Phantom Menace actually got decent reviews when it came out. Somewhere along the line, it's sort of has become universally reviled, but Attack of the Clones, and I've still got sort of old movie mags sort of in my cupboard, laying around that do back this up. Back in the day, it like the general consensus was it was a good step up from episode 1, and it was reviewed much more favorably. So it's funny how, like, much like Schumacher's sort of film was, it's only sort of when everyone got online and it's now sort of collectively the worst Star Wars movie. So it's interesting how that works.
yeah. I mean, it's well, the measuring jug for all new Star Wars content. Like, what's the famous buzz phrase that keeps rocking up all the time? Oh, it's the best one since Empire. That's if you think Empire was the best. Yeah. Like, but it's funny. Like, I know we talked about this a little bit, like, the other week. It's just, I mean, like every time I watch Empire, like, I don't hate it. Like, it's just all right. It's just that, it's a solid sequel. It does all that kind of cool jazz. It's just not my favorite out of the 6. It's almost like this rule. Like, if you've ever frequented anything Star Wars and Empire's not, if you're not smoking the pole of Empire, then it's almost like the Star Wars fans act like the fucking dodos out of Ice Age. Doom on you, doom on you. Like, it's like that, I mean, I didn't say Empire was shit. I just said it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, I'm weird like that. Like, yeah, Phantom Menace has always been my favorite out of the lot. I mean, how does it go again? Say what you will about Jar Jar Binks and midichlorians, but they were nowhere near as retarded as Starkiller Base was. Yeah, true that. And it's funny because every time I watch that, I don't quite understand. Like they say Jar Jar, take him out of the film and it's moderately better and all this kind of shit. I'm like, can't you make the same case for 3PO in the OT though? I mean, just the shit that he says at the most inopportune times, like that moment when they're going into the asteroid field when they're already under such incredible pressure from the Empire, and 3PO's just rattling off this nonsensical shit in the background. Like, I don't understand the criticism. Like, it can't. One thing that gets me though, I imagine these people were younger when they saw the OT, but just for shits and gigs, if they were the age that they were when Phantom Menace came out, let's reverse Phantom Menace with Empire then. Would Empire be held up in such high regard? Probably not.
Yeah, again, it's kind of like that point I made about sort of the backlash to the MCU, You never hear, at least I don't think I've ever have, like, you never heard someone who saw Star Wars in the 70s as an adult and loved it, partly because it's 50 years and they're most likely no longer with us, sadly. But like even growing up through the 90s and like with the internet and the 2000s and all that,
yeah,
like everyone on planet Earth saw Star Wars as a kid and loved it. Like, you never saw like 20-year-old guys watch, A New Hope back in the day, and it just had this lifelong affinity for Star Wars. They're probably out there, but it was always overwhelmingly saw Star Wars as a kid and loved it. So it's it's funny. Like, I hardly ever hear or have heard or have read or whatever. I hated Jar Jar as a kid, or I watched it as a kid, and like, it doesn't really bother me. It's all these sort of middle-aged dudes who grew up in the 70s and 80s. Like, they're the ones with the raging boner for the Jar Jar hate,
Yeah.
See, that's really interesting to me because, yeah, you're right. Like, you watch The Phantom Menace as a kid, and like, it just doesn't bother you. And again, we forget, there was a 16-year gap between Star Wars films. So if you were alive for the original trilogy, like, if you're like 10 years old, obsessed with it, like, you're 26 when you're going to watch The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Like, of course, Jar Jar's going to get on your nerves, and you're going to say it's too kiddie and like all that sort of stuff. And 3PO and Chewie growling at the droid as he's getting, frog marched through the Death Star.
Yeah.
That didn't bother you, is it? Because you were a kid when you watched it, eating Cocoa Pops and shitting yourself, So it's yeah, like you never hear anyone who whose first encounter with Star Wars was an adult, and that inspires this fucking mad passion in them where they become hardcore fans. Like you never hear that, do you?
No, you don't. And to be honest with you, I never quite clicked on that. And I'm glad that you've brought that up because that's exactly what's going on here.
It's had the opposite effect. I tried to get, my girlfriend at the time to watch one. She had never grown up with Star Wars. Like I tried to like say we'll watch them as an adult, like I loved this as a kid. Let's see what we record. And like it's like you barely get 5 minutes into it. What the fuck is this shit? Why are we watching this?
It doesn't really get her into the mood for extracurricular activities. I mean, you'd rather chuck on like the Crying Game or something, or the Princess Bride. I mean, Revenge of the Sith is not going to get her in the mood, mate.
Yeah, I knew we had very different tastes in film because she even fell asleep in the Terminator. She'd never seen any of this sort of shit I was into as a kid. So, all right, trust me, you gotta love this. Like half an hour, she's asleep, on my lap. But I watched it through to the end. I'm committed.
Yeah, well, and that's there you go. You know what I mean? Yeah. At least she didn't just wake up when the credits were on and then you ask, "What'd you think?" Yeah, interesting flick.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit average.
I mean, yeah, just do the Tachi man. Yeah, nah, hey, that's what I mean. I think it's important that people remember that. See, because it's something that I wish the Jurassic mob would finally catch up onto. Like they keep saying, make dinosaurs scary again and all that kind of shit. Since when does making dinosaurs scary equal a movie not for kids? And like they always cite Jurassic Park, they always go back to 1993 like the mockingbirds they are, and then they'll start saying things like, "Oh yeah, because it wasn't really for kids back then." There's John Hammond, like Richard Attenborough actually has a line that says, "Spend a bit of time with our target audience, kids." Like the film itself fucking says that. But who knows, man? You can't convince these people of that. Like, because I remember when gaming, like when consoles started going into online gaming and all of that. I think Blunty said something like this once, and it was that the 30-something-year-old gamer outnumbers the up-and-comers. No, they don't, mate. That's never been the case. Kids are the next generation is always constantly fucking booming. I don't think that's ever been the case. I mean, like these toy collectors that just whinge and bitch and complain about Mattel not slapping a bit more paint on their toys because kids are going to be buying these things and bashing the fuck out of them with each other. Like they're not going to jack up the premium toy just for that.
Yeah, and that's as it should be. One of the things that sort of did give me hope for the future was just how successful the Five Nights at Freddy movie was. It's not made for me. I have no fucking idea what it's about, what the games are about, why they're so popular, but kids today love them. And it's really interesting that movie does really well when all these sort of tired, sagging old franchises are just, flop after flop after flop. Because kids today aren't interested in that shit.
Why would why would a 17-year-old kid, for example, why would a kid go to fucking Alien Romulus?
Yeah.
They wouldn't.
Yeah, it's, the time to do it has been and gone. They're going to seek out, stuff that they grew up with.
You know what? Good on them. I'm glad they're getting things.
Yeah, it's great
for their own, and they're enjoying it. Nah, like I don't really frequent the movies as much as what I used to. But they're going crazy over this new. I mean, that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 looks like it's going to be a crazy time, and like that's all they're talking about. That's going to be the big December movie this year. And like they're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's funny, like the trailer for that Minecraft movie dropped, and like I mean we got all these 25-year-olds to like 30-year-olds talking about how shit it looks, A bloke I work with said that his older brother thought it just looked absolutely shit and it wasn't like the game that he played. And I asked, just out of curiosity, how old is this brother of yours? And he said, oh yeah, 25. And I was like, okay, so what? Let's wind the clock back. So Minecraft has been a thing for about 14 years. So, like, 2011 was the first time I actually sat down and played it. I think it's been around since maybe 2010. And, or it might even be longer than that. So, where I was going with this was, well, it's simple. He's not really interested in a game about building blocks anymore now, is he? You know, like, whereas the kids that are seeing these trailers are going fucking nuts for it. You know, like, I think what's going on here is the film isn't letting you down or your expectations down. It's that you're just too fucking old for Minecraft now, I think, is what's the issue here.
Yeah, it's, I think that's at the heart of a lot of sort of the dysfunction in when discussing a lot of this stuff.
Oh god, it's like why I never went and saw the Lego Movie. Well, why didn't you go and see the Lego Movie? Because I don't give a fuck, mate, about Lego. You know,
actually, that's what I did enjoy. It was I actually did go and see that one. I enjoyed it. I've never watched it ever again, but I remember I remember really liking that. Very unexpected what they did with that. Because you think a Lego Movie is going to be the most bland, sort of corporate, slick, uninspired, dull, mute kind of thing. But yeah, the fact that they had the license to all these other properties, say Batman's in there, and all the different toy lines, it was a real love letter to like anyone who's owned a Lego set. It was I'd probably, I wouldn't rank it as high as Paddington because it's a bit too crazy and out there for that. But it wasn't too bad, all things considered. But I never bothered with the sequel or anything like that. Paddington is great. Like, do yourself a favour. Don't deprive yourself of some pleasure. Check out Paddington from 2014.
Yeah, alright, I will. Something different. Fucking Arc-Vile! Cunt.
I'm going to watch Paddington 2 over the weekend, and apparently that's even better. And
Paddington 2, The Revenge.
Yeah, and the third one's coming out in a month or two, Paddington in Peru. Another thing I forgot to mention about it, the world building is really good. It really was really intriguing, yeah. I'd like to know if this is sort of true to the books or not. I don't know, but because I'd obviously heard of him, but I've never read any of the children's books or anything growing up. But yeah, it is the perfect family film, and there's lots of laughs as well. I had a blast.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Paddington Bear. It's a bit out there, a bit of a left field suggestion.
Yeah, like we come off Chucky, and then we'll go and do. I will get those other ones uploaded now that we landed on a long weekend down here in Australia, so it's going to be
yeah.
So I will get those other ones up because I got like 3 to put up. And get back into the swing of things now that we're in a term and things have started to calm down a little bit. It took 23 fucking minutes to get that level sorted out. Good Will Hunting 2, hunting season.
Yeah, I can't even remember what the ones we discussed were.
There was, so what? The Most Dangerous Game, Child's Play 2, and Rain of Fire.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I've done the prep on that Housebound when you ever want to get around to it.
Yeah, we will get back into that because there's quite a few things that we need to check out and all of that. But I think I'll get those uploaded. I might even upload 2 of them this weekend. I was going to cut it. Yeah, go on.
I like the parolee officer. How he's like fucking hardcore to the paranormal shit.
Yeah, it was surprisingly a very
later,
good.
He needs evidence.
Yeah, I thought because I think I typed in movies that are like Signs, and I don't know how this fucking happened, but because I rewatched Hunt for the Wilder People, and it must have just the algorithm or something must have picked up I was keen on New Zealand films. So when I typed in movies that are like Signs, preferably just as good, what ended up happening was someone recommended This Housebound, and I was like, yeah, right, I'll give it the shot, and I thought it was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
last night you were creaming your pants over this stuff. Now you need evidence.
yeah, and I thought that she was the skeptic, and now she believes it. I just thought it was so fucking good how quickly shit just goes around. Yeah, last night you were creaming your pants about this stuff, and now you need evidence is probably the single best line in any film. That is right up there with that moment with what David Arquette in fucking what was it, Eight-Legged Freaks, when he talks to that fucking radio DJ who keeps spruiking from his RV with the radio signal that aliens are real. All of a sudden he's like, giant spiders? What kind of bullshit is that? Then Arquette just grabs him. Fucking space aliens, you believe. This you've got a hard time with? Oh god, that movie is an instant 10 out of 10 just because of that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, last night you were creaming your pants over this stuff. Now you need evidence. Yeah, we don't have all the facts.
Yeah. Oh, that was gold. Such a funny movie.
Yeah, I had a great time with that. So yeah, I don't think I've seen a shit film from New Zealand in recent times. Like, I mean, I know Hunt for the Wilder People isn't exactly a recent film. Like, I think 2016 that came out. And this one even longer. Like, this is a decade old, this one.
Yeah. And that's that was like Taika Waititi, wasn't it?
I believe so. So I mean, I know he makes the rounds because of that whole "I'll ruin your mythos in a minute, baby" thing. But you know what? He can say whatever the fuck he wants because he's made two awesome films that I love.
Yeah, Taika Waititi.
You know what really, this is what gets me the most when people start doing this shit. Like when they say, "Oh, it wasn't accurate to the comic origins or whatever." What comic origin? Like when people talk about their favorite Superman, very rarely are we talking about the same guy. Like, I mean, what's your favorite Superman? It's probably not. Believe it or not, people have a favorite Superman that isn't fucking Christopher Reeve. Like, I love Christopher Reeve, but he's not. He's by no means my favourite. And don't let that fool you. By no means is Henry Cavill my favourite either. Who is my favourite? Probably be the animated one. If I had to pick. But my point is, there's no like definitive take that's going to make everyone happy with these characters. There's never going to be, because there never has been.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has a different favourite Batman. Yeah. Everyone has a different favourite. Like, my favourite Flash is Wally West. Like, I've never really liked Barry Allen, but for some reason, every fucking Flash needs to be Barry Allen these days. I've never given a shit about Barry Allen. Wally West was the Flash when I was a kid.
Yeah, and that's the reason why, because, like, Barry Allen was I think he was the Silver Age Flash in the sort of 60s and 70s, and he's the one who dies in Crisis, I think. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But it's funny how when it's a problem and when isn't it a problem. Like, if you look at The Dark Knight Rises, like, Bane is nothing like what he is in the comics. He, I don't think they have the Venom storyline. It's basically some painkiller he gives himself or something.
He pops some paracetamol from time to time in the Nolan universe.
I think the only thing that's accurate to the comics is he worked for Ra's al Ghul once. And I found it interesting reading about Sam Raimi's planned fourth Spider-Man film. Like, they were going to go with the Vulture, but he was going to be a mercenary, and he has these like he has a daughter who I don't think, like, I'm out of the loop with Spider-Man continuity, but I don't think the Vulture had children or anything like that. and she was going to be a major character in the film. So it
Wasn't
just
it going to
seems,
be Black Cat? They were going to try and like merge that into Black Cat.
no, as far as I know, Black Cat wasn't going to be, and not Mary Jane, believe it or not. There's no like they were just going to start the movie and broken
Fucking hell, yeah.
off screen and yeah, she wasn't sort of going to be mentioned. And I think the Vulture's daughter. So the Vulture is killed sort of midway, a little bit past the midway point of the movie, and yeah, the Vulture's daughter finds his lair and decides to continue his legacy.
So
But he was
basically,
like a
Spider-Man
Black Ops.
3 all over again.
Yeah, he was like a top secret Black Ops soldier, whereas in the comics, he's like this corrupt businessman or something. So it's funny how yeah, it's just such a weird thing. Like yeah, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, when is it all right to do it and when isn't it? Because he was really against using Venom, and he was a bit more sort of faithful to Venom, but he had a hard on for the Vulture. And his take on the Vulture was nothing like the comics. It's weird, isn't it? When we decide, all right, now we need to be faithful and follow the text like they're fucking sacred scriptures. And then it's like, oh yeah, we'll just borrow the name and fuck it, we're doing our own thing.
You know, funny enough, just to bring up Schumacher again, Schumacher's look for Bane in Batman and Robin is like, looked like it leapt right out of the fucking comic, but we can't talk about that.
Yeah, it's a lot more faithful to
Yeah, we can't talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite miss that sort of Luckwood mask that Bane sort of has. Yeah,
I'm
really
over. One thing about Bane's looks, like, I get that he's from South America and all that kind of stuff. I hate this mucha lucha shit that they keep doing with him. Like, I don't want him to look like fucking Killbane. I want him to look like Bane. Where I'm going with this is, I miss the fully closed-in mask where you don't see him at all. I want that to come back.
Yeah,
I don't want to
cheap.
see. I don't want to see these open eyes and open mouth shit. I don't want him to look like El Fuerte. I want him to look like fucking Bane next time. And the only person who's done that for me is Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a bit of a trend here, don't you think?
Yeah, and like the tubes coming out of the back of his head. They looked really cool in the comics.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that. Yeah, independent thought alarm. Yeah, I just find that just so confusing, you know? Like, just, yeah, no, whatever. Whatever tickles your pickle. It's like, what was it? We're going to have a water villain that's not Hydro Man. We're going to have a sand villain that's not Sandman. And we're going to have an electric villain that's not Electro. All right,
Yeah.
James. Fucking, what else are we doing? What? Oh, sorry. Who else are we not adapting?
Yeah, I was reading he's a pretty good bloke. I enjoy reading his blog. But he's like, he's really getting the shits with the Rings of Power. He's a big Tolkien fan, and I'm really enjoying reading his blog where he sort of revisits Peter Jackson's trilogy, and he just cannot fucking work out, because there are scenes and there are sequences from the film that are incredibly faithful to the text, like after they've escaped Moria and go to Karas Galadon, like that's really faithful to the text. And then it's like, you know, Legolas using a shield as a surfboard and him blowing his stack over, things like that. It's really funny to watch and read about, you know.
Yeah, the shield surfing. Like,
the books, the films, the film, just let it go, dude. But I love him when he's raging.
we're talking about an elf, for fuck's sake. You know, this is what I'm like a little bit when fans start going down this rabbit hole of shit like that. I just channel a bit of Roy Scheider, a bit of Captain Nathan Bridger. You know, like, one of your crew is fraternizing with the enemy. With all due respect, sir, he's a fucking dolphin.
Yeah, he's a dolphin.
You know, like it's like when people talk about like the realism of DSV, it's got a talking fucking dolphin in it. Like,
Oh yeah, that
Like,
was a terrific episode. Yeah, the pre-credit sort of intro scene. Yeah, Darwin's been arrested, and the look on their face.
he's a
I want
fucking
my dolphin back.
yeah, he's a dolphin.
Yeah, he's been fraternizing with the enemy. Colonel, he's a dolphin. The way Bridger delivered that line is just superb.
It's just, I think that's what people need to like. I know we've talked about this on one of our discussions. It might have been the City of Angels one. When people talk about like the MCU and costumes and characters and all that kind of shit, hey man, this is serious. They're fucking cartoons, mate. Like,
Yeah.
like in my mind, a comic is a cartoon. Like, it's not serious at all. And like I've often thought about that, you know, like when they say it's not faithful to the source material. Like another one that gets this a lot is, oh, it's not faithful to the source material in like when they talk about things in Transformers. Every single one of these characters has had like 1,000,001 takes. Loyal to what one? For
Yeah.
fuck's sake. You know, some of them are by and large kind of the same across the board. But I mean, like when they talk about, oh, Shockwave in Dark of the Moon is nothing like Shockwave is in the G1 comic. Well, are we basing, is the source material in your mind the fucking G1 comic, or is it the UK comic, or is it the fucking, the G1 cartoon, which he was hardly ever in? You might as well say he was not even in it. You know, like, what do you mean it's not faithful? There's like 8 different takes that they could have gone for there.
Yeah, it's now become so cumbersome and unruly now with all the different versions.
It just bugs the shit out of me. Like, when I hear that, it's got to be faithful to the source. I'll say this for nothing. Everyone who's fucking gushing over the old EU, I think they call it Legends these days, saying that that's what Disney should have done and all this kind of shit. Most of the people saying that probably haven't even fucking read a book from the old EU. Because the old EU was full of bullshit as well. Like, 99% of it was just utter garbage. There was probably 1 or 2 stories that were worth a pinch of shit, that's it. So, canning it and just doing their own thing was the best thing they ever did.
Yeah, I've read a few sort of growing up over the years. I know, like it's got a real sort of devoted fan base, but I could never really get into the EU. So yeah, I am kind of glad, even though the new films aren't much to write home about. Yeah, I'm glad they kind of did their own thing, and not to mention if like so much of the EU is sort of set post Jedi, but it's immediately set sort of post Jedi, you know. And you can't really do that with new films because they were so hell bent on. Like, ironically enough, they could have done that if they had have just recast the roles, but because they wanted the original cast, you have to now factor in the 30-odd year gap.
Well, it's got to be loyal to the source material. It just, yeah, I don't understand that, you know. Like, it's called, like, they're called adaptions for a reason, you know. Like, I don't know. Well, as far as I'm aware, when people talk about their favorite take on Batman, it really comes down to just one thing. They want a fucking... By and large, it all comes down to one simple fact, and that is their source material is fucking Frank Miller or some shit like that. Like, they don't want anything outside of that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm just getting really fed up with every single take being that. Like, that's kind of why I never really... I probably will never sit down and watch The Batman, because, you know, I'm looking at it and, like, there is going to be no surprises in that. It's more or less what I... Looking at it, it's going to tick all the boxes that it needs to for anything post-Batman Begins. because we're not allowed to have a sense of humor with this character anymore, which is something I thought the 2017 Justice League did very well. Like, I kind of quite liked the fact of dialing him back. I'm tired of seeing Batman being a miserable prick all the time. I know he hasn't got the most peachy upbringing in the world, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of Adam West make it into the big screen again.
Yeah, I think I was surprised at the tone of it. I think now that I've had a week or two to digest it, I have and also listening to Matt Reeves talk about it as well, I think it's in good hands. I was really surprised at just how, particularly the final half, how optimistic it was. Like, you've got sort of Batman like walking around in daylight, like he's standing right next to like emergency crews working and doing their thing. He's helping carry survivors out, which is what you would see in an Adam West show, like Batman and Robin cruise around in that show and people like just wave to him. Oh yeah, it's just Batman, but they waved to the Joker as well, in that show. So yeah, I was quite surprised at how sort of by the end of it, he realizes that, again, it's Batman, you're going to sort of tread over well-worn ground where he realizes, like, revenge won't get him what he wants. He needs to be a symbol of hope and inspiration. That's something that Zack Snyder never touched on with, like, that whole decade of just crap that we got.
Which it was. It was literally just 10 years of shit for all of the
Affleck's
DC.
Batman could not do that. Snyder wouldn't have had the emotional sensitivity to do that. And I think that, I've got a theory about what's going on, because a lot of people have one scene that is really reviled, and it's sort of like the Lovejoy scene in Titanic. Like, the scene in and of itself is 3 or 4 minutes, but like when you're pushing 3 hours, are you really going to split hairs over 3 or 4 minutes? But yeah, test audiences did say it was too long. He just ripped that scene bleeding out, and suddenly the runtime is good. There's the scene that's in when the Riddler's being imprisoned in Arkham and his cellmate is the Joker, and it's in a movie that's already way too long. That just sort of pushed it over the edge. Not a lot of fans online I'm seeing are fans of that scene. Like, we're tired of the Joker, we've got Joker fatigue. But I don't think I think it's just really clever misdirection. People, because he borrows a lot from Nolan, and people are just automatically assuming he's going to borrow from Nolan again and make the Joker the villain. I don't think he's done that. I actually think the villain for the next film will be Hush. There's a gorilla on the table.
Tommy Elliott.
Yeah, there's a subplot with Thomas Wayne when he was still alive about a journalist called Robert Elliott. At first I thought it was a fun Easter egg, where he mentions he had a son on blah blah fucking blah, and there's a lot of Easter eggs in the movie as well. They clearly love Batman. There's a lot of, and it's the same with the Venom thing I was telling you about. He pulls out like this glowing green substance from his utility belt and injects himself in it. Are we meant to think that's just an Easter egg, or is that setting up something? Like, it could even be another crack at Bane again. But there's this, the way one of the themes of the movie was about the sins of the father and, the cycle repeating and things like that. I have a feeling that Joker scene won't amount to anything. I think he's sort of putting it there to distract you from the fact that he's going to bring in Hush. And Matt Reeves has also said his favourite villain is Mr. Freeze. So it honestly wouldn't surprise me that he might get another crack. Because like the marketing for this film was totally weird. It's not this sort of bleak, harsh, unforgiven, Seven-like environment. There's some parts of that in there, but by the end of it, it's very optimistic. Like I can easily imagine Mister Freeze in that world. But yeah, so my theory is Hush will be the new villain.
Interesting theory.
Yeah, watch them go with the fucking Joker. They just can't help themselves. Eh?
You know what I was thinking. Yeah, all right. So they'll sit down and do that. It'll be something really fucking nonsensical. Like I'm thinking. Well, obviously the obvious choice here is Paris, France.
Yeah, yeah, Paris.
Uh,
I just don't think thematically any other villain works with the story that he's telling, and there's a huge scope to this. Yeah, I just can't think of any other villain but Hush who would fit it. Hush is not particularly well known outside of comic book circles, but I think he would fit the bill. He's a new villain. He hasn't been translated to film. People that have Joker fatigue because we've had 3 Jokers now in the last 10 years. Yeah, I don't know. I just have a feeling he's not going to go like that, particularly after hearing him speak and just the reverence he holds the earlier films in, and yeah, like we talked about earlier tonight, he's a really big fan of Schumacher's films. It honestly wouldn't. I actually have a theory as well. He's evolving into the Adam West Batman, where he starts off as this cranky, fucking moody, emo, angsty sort of young man, and by the end of it, he's sort of driving the Batmobile with an open hatch, just waving at everyone. I could easily imagine Robert Pattinson evolving into the Adam West Batman by the end of it.
Which would be pretty cool. I'm just over this shit. Like I think out of all of the heroes that Snyder has well and truly fucked into the dirt, the Trinity has had it the worst. Coincidentally, well, okay, this is what gets me the most when these fucking Snyder fanboy robots come along, right, and start doing their thing, ranting and raving about their shit. Isn't it funny, in the DCEU, the ones that have performed very well with audience and have done well financially are all the ones that have had nothing, that Snyder has got nothing to do with. Like there's there's a fucking trend there, people. Like Wonder Woman is the first one to hit $1 billion out of it. Man of Steel didn't do that. Dawn of Justice didn't do that. Wonder Woman did that. Aquaman did that. Coincidentally, all productions that had nothing to fucking do with Snyder. There's a trend there, people.
I read a story, apocryphal, that perhaps true. Because Snyder's a bit of a health nut as well, and if Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck had a different idea or disagreed about the story or the script, he'd challenge them to a sit-up contest, and they just go and go and go, and whoever won the sit-up contest, that was the way they would go with the film. And Snyder's fans are based as fucking hey. And that's why his films, have this fucking meat-headed, testosterone-fueled sort of kinetic tone they do. I just don't think a sit-up contest is the best way to solve a plot hole. But, Snyder's fans think so good luck to them.
Well, the one that got me the most was who died and made him the fucking king of DC films all of a sudden. That's what kind of got me going, because all of a sudden everyone was talking about, oh, Snyder's our boy. How? When? What happened?
Yeah, because on the surface he had form. He'd done 300, which is based on a comic, which was really successful, and he'd done Watchmen.
It had more to do with the Watchmen, I'm willing to bet.
Yeah, but on a surface level, they've gone, okay, he's done 2 comic book movies and they've made a shitload of money. Here's some more comic book movies, but of course, if you spend more than 5 seconds on it, you realize 300, Watchmen, and Superman are all very different comics. He's perfectly suited to 300, which is, hyper violent, testosterone fueled, tough guy, blah, blah, fucking blah. Like, he's perfectly suited to that. That's his element. He's in. It didn't surprise me that movie did well, and he did a good job on it. 300's a remarkable film, but that's his sort of element. Those sorts of things don't necessarily lend themselves to qualities of, bringing out the heart of a character like Superman, though.
What was that review that you saw for Dawn of Justice that one time? It was, he doesn't understand Superman at all. He kind of gets Batman. Do we need to revise that statement now?
Yeah, I think you mentioned once you'd like to discuss Dawn of Justice, so we may get around to it because I haven't seen them in a long time.
Yeah, I think I've only ever seen Dawn of Justice. I remember seeing it twice at the cinema.
Yeah.
I saw the ultimate cut or whatever, the fucking Blu-ray that they brought out that has like 40 more minutes of something. I can't even remember what it was. But it's probably, again, like, when did that get a home media release? Like 2016, 17? Like, it's probably been a decade since I've even seen that film from start to finish.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. I did see it at the movies. I may have seen it once or twice in the interim since then, but yeah, I haven't revisited Man of Steel or any of those for a long time.
Yeah, when's the last time I've seen Man of Steel? Oh god, I can't remember. Probably 2019 if I had to put a number on it. That might have been the last time I seen it. I remember thinking it was by no means the worst of them.
Yeah, I'd have to. I do have the Blu-ray around here somewhere.
Yeah, so do I. I found it the other day. Yeah, I remember thinking it was alright, but I never saw Man of Steel at the theatres or anything like that.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, I can't remember why I didn't go and see it. I think I must not have been in that day.
Yeah, yeah. I saw Dawn of Justice, and I did see Wonder Woman at the movies. I remember, but yeah, like you said, that's not a Snyder film though. Even though it's part of that series.
Yeah, it's just something that I found quite interesting, and that people still to this day are still saying, like, release the Snyder Cut still goes trending like every 2 months or so, and restore the Snyderverse or whatever hashtag it is that they're all on about these days.
Yeah.
Alright, I suppose. Yeah, no, it's just it was just a little thing that I found quite interesting, that the higher end films in that particular lineup are all ones that he had next to nothing to do with.
Yeah, well, the ones that were critically well received, like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, yeah, he did not direct. So, and both of those did reasonably well commercially as well. So, I still need to get around to Aquaman. I never saw that one.
Apparently, well, I guess this is kind of the downfall, isn't it? That it's a shame that those movies did do as well as they did, because now they can't really amount to anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because everything's getting a hard reboot. Although, I think people can kind of rest assured. I think what's going to end up happening is, I think that the Batman that we've been talking about tonight, I think they will just bite the bullet and say it's part of this new universe, pending people's reception of this new Superman film. If this new Superman film goes down good, I think they'll flat out say, well, Robert Pattinson is the Batman of this universe. They'll make it a part of a shared universe, based entirely on whether or not people warm up to this Superman movie. I think that's a given, that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not long to wait now. It's
We should be getting a teaser
Yeah,
soon for that.
yeah. Only what 7 or 8 months to go, and then it will be out. So
Yeah, it got me thinking, like, it won't be too long until we're starting to see footage from Jurassic World Rebirth as well. I'm keen to get a sort of a taste of that just to see what's going on. Like, I'm not expecting too much to be given away about it, but well, it depends if the dipshit that made the Fallen Kingdom trailer has anything to do with it. There might be a bit too much, but it's not going to be a full trailer. It's just going to be a teaser. So I'm not expecting, based on the marketing behind Jurassic World in 2015, I think we're going to be in good hands with this.
yeah,
So I'm keen to get the first sort of real taste for that, which won't be too far away. Like if they're hanging by this, and all signs seem to be going that way. If they're hanging by this July 2025 release, we should be seeing a teaser pretty soon.
yeah. Is there any So you mentioned Sonic. Is there anything big coming out at the end of the year?
That's
Because I'm only looking forward to there were only 2 movies I was looking forward to, but Paddington, like a young filly burst through the pack. I'm going to go check out Paddington in Peru. But the only ones that grabbed my interest were that Ron Howard film Eden, about the trying to settle on the Galapagos Islands and all the weird shit that happened. And I didn't realize they were making a movie on I forget the guy who wrote it. Robert Harris. He wrote a book called Conclave about the sort of wheeling and dealing that goes on at the Vatican when they elect a new pope. That's getting an adaptation with Ray Fiennes, which I had no idea about. That were the only 2 or 3 movies I had any interest in to finish off the year.
Oh, well, I think Sonic will probably be a fun time. I just think it's crazy that in a roundabout way it actually did happen, that Keanu Reeves and fucking Jim Carrey are in a film together. That's just crazy. That's just so cool to me. So yeah, I've apart from that, no. But like I said, like, have I been to the movies at all this year? I've been to the movies twice this year. It was to check out Planet of the Apes and Godzilla vs. Kong. That was about it.
Okay. Yeah, that's another franchise, the Apes. I think I'm about 2 or 3 behind them. I need to get back on and get up to date on them.
Yeah, it was alright. Kevin Durant plays the villain ape in the new one, that Kingdom.
Yeah.
And he was fucking awesome in that. Proximus Caesar, I think they call him. But yeah, every time I sit down and, like, I know the Godzilla films are not really high art or anything like that. Yeah, nothing really stuck with New Empire. Like, it was big dumb fun to the point where I sat down, watched it, and just nothing stuck. So I'm guessing it did its job. That's I mean, it's giant monsters beating the shit out of each other. I don't think there's really a hidden message we need to take away from that. You know, like it's a movie called Rampage featuring The Rock. You know, you don't need to, like, I mean, it does everything written on the box, doesn't it? Yeah, I probably should get into that. Like, I know some people have said I should probably watch Monarch. Yeah, I'll get around to it. It's there in case I need it, but, like, I'm not really all that interested in the MonsterVerse, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't think it's bad or anything, I just don't think it's quite what I'm interested into these days. Like, I used to be really into it. Like, Godzilla 2014, I actively followed that right up until its release. But I'd be lying if I said I did that with any of the others. Like, I didn't really care that much about Kong, Skull Island. I saw that the same day as Logan.
Yeah, okay.
I went and saw Kong, and then I went back to see Logan, and they let me in for free to see Logan. I think it was like the last showing, and they were like, "Yeah, just go in, mate." And I was like, yeah, top man. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, fucking like I still haven't seen Sonic 2, so I'll probably have to brush up on that before I go. I would like to see this third one in theaters. What else? I did see the first one in cinemas before the COVID shit really kicked off. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember Gary Chalk had a cameo in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
And that's the thing. That's what's good about movies, because you think, like a new installment of something is coming out, and like you want to check it out, but you think, oh shit, the last couple came out 3 or 4 years ago. But a movie's a movie. You just set aside an afternoon and watch one or two of them, and bang, you're up to speed.
I remember someone said that once, like, oh yeah, do you think you'll ever do like game discussions? Well, the problem with games is that you got to keep fucking around with them. With a movie, you're in and you're out.
Yeah.
Like so it's easier to talk about a film for a while, But like I'm willing to bet you, I probably won't even have to have watched Sonic 2 to go into this one and enjoy it. It'll be totally accessible that you could walk in completely blind with no context and be totally up to speed with what's going on.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it,
so
I think it
too.
will 100% be that. Like it won't. Yeah, it won't need to be anything other than that. Yeah, so I'm pretty. Oh, what the fuck was that? Oh, a demon. Yeah, that's what I'm expecting. But no, there's not really been anything. But see, this is something. Thinking about it now, I've kind of fallen back onto it. That is, when you were asking me, is there anything else coming out in December? I couldn't really answer that question because if you don't go to the movies a lot, you don't really frequent a lot of movie trailers. And because I don't follow any of these channels that post trailers on shit, and when you have an ad blocker on and all of that, you don't really get exposed to up and coming material a lot
Yeah.
until it's already been out. So if there is anything else coming out, it just kind of dawned on me tonight that, well, I don't really get exposed to anything new that's coming out.
Yeah, actually, there is one more. I did catch a random trailer of. There's a movie called Y2K with Rachel Zegler. It looks like a lot of fun. It's set in 1999 on New Year's Eve, and like it's just a sort of funny tongue-in-cheek take on what if the Y2K virus actually did all the shit it was sort of meant to do, like the machines come alive and like the VCR tries to kill this guy by spitting a cassette tape of Varsity Blues at him. um,
Which came out the
look,
year prior.
yeah, it looked really fun. I enjoyed watching that trailer, so I'll probably check that one out as well.
Yeah, alright. No, that sounds pretty good. Quarter of a century a bit late, but yeah, no, it'll be interesting to come out. Oh, well, mind you, the hysteria over it. Y2K. I remember saying Y2K, and a mate of mine out at work was just like, what does that mean? I'm like, year 2000, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it was a sort of big deal. Sort of in the late 1990s. Yeah, well, Netflix. If you're interested in learning more, Netflix did do a documentary. It's called Y2K Time Bomb, sort of looking at yeah. I think they first became aware of that problem in 1992 about
Yeah.
the fact to sort of save memory because computers were huge back in the day, and to cut down on space, they set the data for the year as 2 digits, not four. So, and yeah, and it led to a few sort of malfunctions and whatnot where the computer thought it was the wrong century or something. So there was a fear that when it ticked over to 00, the computer, because they didn't have the computer would think it was would be 1900. So that could sort of have sort of far-reaching implications about
Uh, yeah,
supply chain.
I understand because a similar thing happened. A similar thing happened with 2012 with the Mayan calendar. It's funny. This is what because I remember it was starting to ramp up in 2010 when I was finishing school, and everyone talking about it. Oh well, the Mayan calendar ends in 2012, so they reckon it's the end of the world. Could it be that the Mayans just couldn't be fucked updating it anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird time because I wasn't really aware of it. But sort of reading back historically, there was a lot of, because not just the end of the century, the end of the millennium, and you know, sort of biblical Christian end time sort of talk and discussion was starting to get laced into this sort of stuff. It was a really interesting time. I had a lot of fun revisiting that sort of era. I actually talked to a colleague at work last year, sort of a couple of years older than me. Yeah, do you remember the Y2K? Forrest, do you remember the Millennium Bug? She goes, yeah, I was really annoyed that nothing happened.
Yeah. See, that's what
Yeah.
gets me a lot about these mass hysterias that are just not really grounded in anything. The idea of the end of the world is so much more interesting than how the world is actually going to end. I think is what people need to understand. Like, I hope that it does, and it's awesome. Like the sky turns like yellow or something. I just
Like the seas turn to blood.
yeah, like the seas turn red. It's like fucking human instrumentality out of Evangelion.
Yeah.
I really hope the end of the world just turns planet Earth fucking crazy with colors. But
Yeah.
problem is we'll all just wake up one day and just go, "Ugh," and then the credits roll. The end.
Yeah.
It's
And the reason why is because like a lot of the bugs had been fixed. They were able to come up with a patch to, so by the end of them, because they first discovered this problem, or even like I think even that's not true in 1992. I think the first inkling that this could be a problem was in 1970, from what I read somewhere the other day. But yeah, but they spent the 1990s sort of correcting this bug, this flaw in a lot of computer systems. So all the major systems that we rely on had been long solved. So it's like it's such a weird sort of phenomenon, isn't it? Because the problem wasn't as big as advertised. It sort of creates this impression that it wasn't a big deal to begin with. Like if you're hired to solve a problem and you avert that problem, like people sort of think it was a hoax or it wasn't real. It's really interesting how sort of the human mind treats those sort of things.
yeah. That's what I reckon. How I would love to just see a. I kind of want that to happen again. I want kind of like this mass hysteria to kick off again. Just so you can be the one sitting at the back just going, yeah, look, man, like nothing's going to happen. Like, A, I could never get that lucky. 2, we have smoke detectors. And D,
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice.
A, 2, and D. Oh, that's fucking brilliant. Yeah, I think that'll be pretty interesting because now that we're quite far removed from the 90s now, what's going to happen is we're going to be getting more films set in and around things that were happening in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, like the film adaptation of 9/11 is, you know, like that'll get revisited down the line. You know, like when that turns 30 years old.
Yeah.
Like people will fucking make a movie out of that. You know, that's just kind of how it goes. Like, I mean, movies get made about shit like that all the time. I mean, after you let that kind of fade out a little bit, yeah, like it's just those are the kind of I'll quit shuffling and deal. The whole 80s resurgent shit is at an end. We're going to start seeing the 90s thing kick off now. Where you'll be seeing people wearing overalls, and Saved by the Bell will be playing in the background, and people will try to recreate the 90s value of things like Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's what's going to be happening in a lot of big budget films from now on.
Yeah. Parachute pants.
Yeah,
I
parachute
remember
pants.
them.
One of the things that I remember you saying, this was fucking years ago on one of our discussions, and it was, we were talking about Venom, I think it was. It was when GoldenEye just came out on the Switch, we were talking about Venom, and how did it go again? You might have said it about Carnage, but I remember we were talking about Venom, and it was, I went through a phase where Venom was literally the coolest fucking thing on the planet, and then I turned 12. And then you went on to say that Venom and Carnage were hangovers from the 90s. Which is 100% true.
Oh yeah, particularly with Carnage. There is nothing more 90s than Carnage in terms of comics.
Carnage is a hangover from the 1990s, yeah.
Yeah, all those early Image books, Youngblood and Wildcats and Bloodstrike. Oh my god, the memories.
Yeah, he's a hangover from the 90s. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. It's like the party never ended. Personally, I'd much rather... See, this is why I was happy with Jurassic World Rebirth. Like, it's moving forward. Like they said, it's 5 years after Dominion. I'm like, thank fuck, because I don't want a movie set in the 90s. Everyone keeps saying, oh, we need to have something in the 90s, or we have something in the 80s, or something like that. I'm fucking over looking backwards. I'm sick of pining for shit that doesn't exist anymore. I don't know why people do that. Like, no, I don't want to do that. I hate moving backwards. So much waste. Yeah. I hate moving backwards with shit. I hate prequels and in-between-quels and whatever the fuck spin-off set between 1 and 2 shit Romulus is trying to be. I hate moving backwards with things.
Yeah.
It's just how I am. Like, we need to dust off that slogan from the Gruen Nation. We're moving forward. We're moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's anyway,
what we need. I better wrap it up. I'll let you finish your game in peace.
Oh yeah, no, that'll do it for me. I mean, I'm done getting my ass curb stomped by fucking cyber demons and barons of hells and fucking arachnotrons and Manky and all that shit. But it's great fun playing Doom again. I might play a little bit of it later on. I might check out another Silo tonight before I call it quits. It's good that it's a long weekend. I'll finish it up and get back to you next week about it. And we'll probably have a bit more of a discussion about it before this next season drops.
Yeah, definitely.
And what else was there that I was kicking over? I downloaded a few other things and I can't even remember. Well, that's the problem now with having like all these new memory drives and all of that. You kick off all these fucking torrents and by the end of the week you can't remember what you've downloaded, so you just start slow rolling your whole downloads folder. To try and get through it. But I mean, like, watching 3 of these episodes is a feature film, for Christ's sake. Like, that's plenty. Like, binge watching is like 3 of these episodes, then that's it. Oh, rightio then, I'll black out then. And when it's shit that I'm interested in seeing, nothing annoys me more than laying down to watch it, because I'll probably fall asleep while I'm doing it. I'm like, no, I need to actively watch it. Too many idiots are out there reviewing stuff, and they're passively watching things. Like, I think you need to actively be watching these things, because then you start getting, people who walked out of the finale of Lost saying, oh, they were dead the whole time. Maybe if you weren't passively watching it and on your smartphone at the same time, and you actually actively watched the thing in general, you probably wouldn't have fallen into that trap. But no, that's pretty much me. It's going to be a nice, easy one. What about you?
Yeah, much the same. I want to continue to work my way through Shogun. I've just been really busy with work and other things like that. I don't get the sort of time to... Yeah, it's another one. I want to sit and watch it properly and enjoy it, not just sort of fall asleep to it, because it's a really good show. And I want to, like I mentioned, I want to check out the sequel to Paddington, so I'll probably... do that. And we've got the NRL Grand Final on Sunday, so it should be a massive game.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, Melbourne and Penrith, so looking forward to that. I'll watch that.